Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyana Habibi Ilahi Rabbil Alameen bil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa alihi tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin al-mazlumin wa la'natu ad-da'ima ala a'daihim ajma'in min alan ila qiyami yawmiddin. أما بعد فقد قال حسين بن علي عليه السلام في دعاء عرفه: لا إله إلا أنت إني كنت من الظالمين لا إله إلا أنت إني كنت من المكبرين. The Dua Arafah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a unique place to investigate in regards to the levels of Tawheed or understanding of Tawheed. The Dua Arafah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam sets the ground for understanding what went in the plain of Karbala. We are beginning a series of discussion in regards to the reflections of faith in Ashura, how faith was reflected not only of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, but also in regards to the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. What really made them that strong of a mu'min? What was the key factor behind them having this zenith, this ultimate level of perfection in their iman? So therefore we will be looking at a series of lectures in relation to the faith that is in the lesson that we could really learn from the Ashura. The key factor of faith, which is known as Iman, comes from the Tawheedi belief, comes from the belief in God. The stronger the belief in God, the understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the stronger that Iman of a person is. That is why we tend to see that Amirul Mu'mineen in one of his statements says that a mu'min is such a strong person that if he asks the mountain to move towards him, the mountain will move towards him. He's that sort of strong in his will, in his Iman. So therefore what really make a person that strong? What is it really there that will make a person that strong? When we dissect or when we investigate, we would find that it is this belief in God to the maximum capacity that a person could have. And we have seen that a person who is falling down from that mount, who is injured, who have brought dead bodies all day, not only of others but the closest of his family members, but when it comes to Iman, he says ma ma'buda siwak radan be redaihi wa tasliman li amrih, where he is clearly saying that I am pleased with what you are pleased with and I am surrendering to your command. What sort of resolve, what sort of Iman is this? Now let me kind of set a premise for our discussion. The key factor of human beings, or the journey of human beings, if you want to know, is a journey towards knowing God, knowing that Tawheed. And whatever it takes for a person to achieve that ma'rifat, one should really stake that, or I should say one should really make use of that opportunity to reach that ultimate level of perfection of knowing Tawheed. Tawheed is not only a belief as an intellectual understanding of the oneness of God, but it is also the practice of it. That's what it was reflected in the plains of Karbala. That Tawheed was reflected, that faith was reflected of these great companions, of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Imam Hussein himself. Now, and they make they made that opportunity avail. They made use of that opportunity which was provided to them, and they reached the purpose of the creation, and they understood and practiced to the maximum capacity that a human being could practice on this earth, lived according to the very command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lived a tawheedi life. That's why we tend to say that Iman tends to do with practice. A mu'min is a person who not only just believe, who not only just surrender, but also practice with resolve, practice with his full capacity of understanding, and he gives a full to his action as well. The days of Ashura were a great opportunity for us to take lessons from the narration of from the narrative of Karbala, in which every day we remembered a martyr, and we kind of see how he achieved this level of Iman and how he sacrificed his life for that Tawheed. Now, I'll go back a bit and then I'll say that, you know, there are a lot of great lessons to be learned from Ashura. Every person, according to their capacity, they extract, they understand, they analyze history, and they analyze the event, and they try to say that, okay, we learned from Ashura how one should really sacrifice one's life for the sake of Deen. We learn from Ashura the lesson of brotherhood. We learn from Ashura the lesson of sacrifice. We learn from Ashura the lesson how to be victorious over falsehood. We learn from Ashura how to be strong even if you are little in number. We learn from Ashura how falsehood is defeated even if it is very powerful. We learn from Ashura how an oppressed one will be victorious over the oppressor by being sort of oppressed, by being Mazloom. And this is what the freedom fighter of India, Gandhi, also mentions, that I learned from Hussein how to be victorious over the oppressors, you know, by being oppressed. He was oppressed. Imam Hussein was someone who was oppressed by zulm was done upon him by the enemies of Islam, by the Khalifa of that time and his followers. But at the same time, we find that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was victorious. He won. So now here Gandhi says that, okay, I learned from Imam Hussein. It's the Ashura which have taught us. So you find many different ways of analyzing and taking lesson from the event of Ashura, Karbala. But the key or the essential reality that we need to understand, which is at the apex of this event, is understanding of faith, which is based upon that Tawheed. So if the more we understand Tawheed and the Iman on that Tawheed and the faith on that Tawheed, all of the others are extracted out. They are just offshoots of this absolute goodness or absolute reality, which is the Iman. And from here, everything comes out. You know, if a person have that perfect faith, then he will be the center of attraction of all good, and everyone would like to somehow relate himself to this absolute good, to this tree of truth, of this light, of this Tawheed and Iman and all that, right? And everyone would like to kind of have a relationship with that. And that's what we tend to see today, that, for example, the propagation of some of the messages which tend to have, ambiguous chain of narrations and ambiguous reality to it, such as, the Hindus, they said they will be coming to join Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein wanted to go to Hind, and it's like something that is amazingly and fascinating, great. Every individual, as they say that, every nation will say that Hussein is ours. There's a poem by one of the great poets. He says that, just wait and see that in the future every nation will say that Hussein belongs to us. So that's what we are seeing right now. Nations saying Hussein belongs to us in making, right? So here you have, for example, a group of people who say that, we wanted to join Imam Hussein, and they came out and this and that and the other. But the point is that Hussein, good doesn't need any definition. Good doesn't need any support. Good is good, and it gives and it provides rather than taking. So the message of Imam Hussein doesn't need any sort of an attestation, acceptance of any nation or any group, of any sort of individual or personality. See, our Imam Hussein is so good that this philosopher have said that freedom fighter have said that, this group is saying this is what it has been in history. None of that is required, right? So the event, the saga of Karbala is that ultimate good, which have many sort of offshoots: lesson of sacrifice, lesson of brotherhood, lesson of patience, lesson of being victorious or false, truth victorious or falsehood, to stand up against tyrants, to speak out against injustice. All of these are there. But where does this all good comes from? What is the source of this all good? If we analyze them all, it goes back to that Iman, that faith. The faith of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and the faith of the 72 followers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and the faith of those who delivered this message after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein and his companions. It is that Iman that became the ultimate source of all of these sort of different categories of goodness and lessons that we like to take. So what was this Iman? And how they had such a great Iman and faith? And as they say that, there's a hadith which says that fi qulub al-mu'min, in the hearts of mu'min, there is harara, there is some sort of heat that is always alive for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. For Imam Hussein, that heat that is in the hearts of the mu'mineen, it is always a light, it is always alive. And that's why whenever Muharram comes, that sort of Iman, that hararat, that flames sort of comes out, and that has always been there. Now, this flames that they are in the hearts of the mu'mineen is lit because of the flame. And that flame and that light and that hararat really comes from the light of Iman of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. He is the orchestrator of making all of these Iman of these 72 companions perfect, which becomes a huge, source of faith and hararat of all mu'mineen, of all goodness, of all truthfulness. It becomes that source. Now, in our continuation after the break, we'll look at what is the basis of this faith and where does this really come from, and how can one really embark upon achieving this sort of iman, inshallah, right after this short break.